Emily Sanders never believed in Valentine's Day until the morning she found a red envelope on her doorstep, with her name written in ink that looked disturbingly like blood. Valentine's Day has never meant much to me. I wasn't dating anyone, didn't have secret admirers, and honestly, I was fine with that. I always thought it was an overhyped day: cards, flowers, candy, hearts, all noise, all nonsense. But this year was different, not because I was in love, because something found me. It started in the early morning. I was making coffee, half awake, when I opened the door to get the newspaper. That's when I saw it propped neatly on my doormat, just slightly angled as if someone wanted it to catch my eye. A small red envelope, the size of a card. My name was written across it in neat, looping black script, not typed, not a sticker, handwritten. It made me hesitate. I don't know why, but something about it felt wrong, off. It wasn't a gesture, I mean. Who doesn't like getting a mysterious letter, right? It was the feeling that whoever wrote it had done so knowing I'd be the only one to see it. I stood there for a while, the cold breeze slipping into the house as I just stared at the envelope. Then, finally, I picked it up. The paper was thick, expensive. It felt like something from another time. No stamp, no return address, just my name. I opened it. Inside, a single card. No pictures, no hearts, no cheesy lines. Just a plain white card with 5 words in the same swirling ink. Will you be mine forever? That was it. No name, no signature. I laughed under my breath, even though I didn't really feel amused. It had to be a prank, I told myself. Maybe one of the neighbors messing around, or someone dropped it off at the wrong door. Still, I couldn't stop staring at the handwriting. It looked so deliberate, like whoever wrote it had practiced a lot. I tossed the envelope in the trash and went on with my day, but I couldn't focus on anything. Every creak in the floorboards, every distant sound outside had me peeking over my shoulder. It was ridiculous. I kept telling myself, it's just a card. It's just a weird, anonymous note from someone with too much time. But when I went outside again around noon, I saw something that wiped the smile off my face completely. There were footprints leading up to my door. Bare footprints. In the snow, no shoes, no socks. Just pale, narrow, human-shaped impressions in the slush. They started at the edge of my walkway where the sidewalk ends and stopped exactly at my doorstep. No return tracks, no tire marks, nothing else. Like someone had just appeared there, dropped the card, and vanished into thin air. That's when I started to feel a tiny, crawling sensation under my skin, like something was circling me just outside my line of sight. I stayed inside the rest of the day, kept the curtains drawn, locked every door and window. I even put a chair under the doorknob like you see in movies. I don't know why. I wasn't in danger. Not really. Nothing had happened. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me, waiting for me to relax. By midnight, I had finally dozed off on the couch with the TV still playing some mindless rom-com. I must have been asleep for less than an hour when I woke up with a jolt, not because of a sound, but because of a feeling, like I wasn't alone in the room anymore. The TV screen had gone black. Static buzzed faintly in the reflection. I thought I saw something move behind me, but when I turned, no one was there. I got up slowly, checked every corner of the room, then moved to the bedroom to grab my phone. That's when I saw it. Another red envelope, sitting at the foot of my bed. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't left my room unlocked. I hadn't opened the door since the afternoon. I would have heard someone come in. I should have heard someone come in. But there it was, perfectly placed, almost lovingly. And this time the envelope wasn't cold. It was warm, like it had just been in someone's hands. I stood frozen, staring at the red envelope on my bed. My room was dark except for the soft glow from the hallway light, casting long shadows across the floor. I hadn't heard anything, no footsteps, no door creaking, nothing at all. But somehow, someone had been inside, and they'd left that envelope as if they belonged there. I approached it slowly, like it might move or lash out if I got too close. It looked identical to the first one, same shape, same dark ink. But as I reached for it, I noticed something new. The edge of the envelope had a small smudge, dark reddish-brown. I told myself it was probably dirt, or ink, but deep down I knew what it looked like. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. The card inside had only one sentence, this time. You looked so beautiful sleeping. I dropped the card. My stomach turned, and for a moment, I thought I might throw up. Someone had been in my room, watching me, standing at the foot of my bed while I slept. That wasn't romantic, that was sick. I rushed around the apartment, checking the locks again, pushing furniture against the doors, opening closet doors so fast they slammed against the walls. I even pulled the shower curtain aside like in some horror movie. Nothing. No one. Not a sound. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but what would I say? That someone left a creepy note and maybe broke in without leaving a trace. That I'm terrified of a Valentine's Day card. It sounded ridiculous even in my own head. I didn't call the police. I should have, but fear does strange things. It makes you second-guess logic. It makes you quiet. Instead, I grabbed an old blanket and sat in the living room with every light in the apartment on. I didn't dare sleep. I watched the door like a hawk, listened for any sound out of place. At some point, just before dawn, I walked into the bathroom and caught sight of myself in the mirror. pale eyes wide and sunken. I looked like a ghost. That's when I noticed something behind me. It wasn't a figure or a shadow, it was a message, written in the foggy corner of the mirror, like someone had breathed on it and traced letters with their finger, but I hadn't taken a shower. There shouldn't have been any condensation. The words were backward, scrawled roughly, but I could still read them. I see you. I stumbled back and nearly slipped on the bathroom tile. My heartbeat was thunder in my ears. I rushed to wipe the mirror clean, scrubbing until the words disappeared. But even after they were gone, I could still see them in my mind, etched into my thoughts like a scar. From that moment on, I covered every mirror in my apartment with towels and sheets. I couldn't bear the thought of seeing another message. Or worse, a reflection that wasn't mine. By midday I started noticing other little things that weren't right. My kitchen window was unlocked. I never left it that way. A fork had been moved from the sink to the counter. One of my socks, just one, was missing from the pile of clean laundry. Too small to mean anything on their own, but together, they painted a picture I didn't want to see. Whoever was doing this wasn't just breaking in. They were living in the silence between my steps, watching me through cracks, through glass, through the sliver of a door I forgot to close all the way. The sun was setting again. Another night was creeping up, and I hadn't slept in nearly 30 hours. I could feel the exhaustion crawling into my skin, but I couldn't rest, not while I was being hunted in my own home. I decided to set up my phone to record through the night, just for peace of mind, just to prove to myself that no one was actually there. As I was propping the phone on a shelf across the room, something caught my eye on the floor near my bed. A trail of small, dark marks, almost like smudges, like fingers dipped in ash or dirt. They led from under the bed, directly to where I had been sleeping. And the worst part, there were only 2 prints. As if someone had been crawling. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every creak, every gust of wind outside my window sent shivers down my spine. My phone stayed recording the whole night, propped up across the room, its little light blinking like a weak heartbeat in the dark. I kept staring at that spot, the faint marks on the floor, smudged like something had crawled from under my bed. I couldn't bring myself to look underneath again. I'd already made that mistake once. By sunrise, the recording had reached its limit. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone and sat on the edge of the couch, wrapping myself in the same blanket I hadn't let go of since the day before. I scrolled through the footage, dreading what I might see. At first, nothing, just me shifting in bed, the occasional headlights flashing outside the window, the walls breathing in the dark. Normal things, harmless things. Then around 3:12 a.m. I saw it. Movement. A figure emerged from the shadows in the corner of the room. I didn't even see where it came from. One frame it wasn't there. The next it didn't walk. It slithered, dragging itself silently toward my bed, crawling slow and steady, like it had all the time in the world. The figure was lean, too long, like its limbs didn't fit right. The mask it wore was the worst part, heart-shaped, blood red, and cracked down the center like it had been broken and glued back together. It reached my bed and stopped there, just watching. I could barely breathe as I saw my sleeping self, completely unaware, only inches from something that shouldn't exist. The figure didn't touch me, just tilted its head, studying me like I was a painting, and then it backed away, vanished into the corner again. By 3:17 a.m. it was gone. I shut the video off. My vision swam with nausea. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that it had been in my room again, or that it could move so silently, so invisibly, and I never even stirred at that moment. I wanted to run. Just grab my keys and drive. Anywhere. Nowhere. I didn't care. But some sick, heavy part of me knew it wouldn't matter. I wasn't being stalked in the traditional sense. This thing, this presence, it didn't follow rules. It didn't need doors or windows. It came when it wanted, left when it was done. Around noon, a knock came at the door. I jumped so hard I dropped my phone. My heart was still in my throat when I peeked through the peephole. No one was there. But when I opened the door, another box had been left on my doorstep. A small, black package tied with a crimson ribbon. No name, no return address. I brought it inside, holding it like a bomb. It was surprisingly heavy. I set it down on the kitchen table and unwrapped the ribbon, every breath shaky. The box opened with a faint creak. Inside were roses, a dozen deep red roses perfectly arranged, their petals soft and full. For a split second I felt something warm, almost touched, until I noticed the petals were wet. I reached out and gently touched one. My fingers came away stained dark red. Not water, not dye, blood. Each flower was bleeding, tiny droplets oozing from the base of the petals, trailing down the stems like veins. I stumbled back, horrified, unsure what to do. I thought it couldn't get worse until I noticed something nestled beneath the roses, hidden under the sticky petals. A heart-shaped locket, silver tarnished, closed. I picked it up with a trembling hand and popped it open. Inside was a picture of me, asleep, the same angle, the same position I saw in the video recording, which meant this photo hadn't been taken from the footage. It had been taken before, from inside my room. I dropped the locket. It hit the floor and clicked shut like a whisper. Something was escalating. Whoever or whatever was doing this wasn't just watching me, it was claiming me. leaving me gifts, tokens, pieces of itself. And deep inside, something colder than fear whispered a terrible truth. This was only the beginning. I didn't open the curtains that day. I didn't check the mail, or eat, or speak. There was no one to speak to, anyway. The outside world felt far away now, like I'd stepped out of it and into something else. Something quieter, darker. I sat on the floor beside my couch for hours, knees drawn to my chest, the bloody roses still sitting in their box on the kitchen table. The locket lay closed where I'd dropped it. I hadn't picked it back up, I couldn't. It felt like poison now, like it would burn if I touched it again. By evening, the sun had disappeared behind thick clouds, the kind that mute the world in a dull gray hush. As the darkness settled in, so did a strange calm, a quiet between storms. I told myself nothing had happened since the flowers. Maybe it was over. Maybe it had been a message, and now that it had delivered it, it was done, maybe. But then the power went out, not flickered out, all at once. The lights, the fridge, the hum of the heater gone. Silence rushed in like a tide. I sat frozen in the fading light of dusk, the windows now just black mirrors. I reached for my phone and saw the screen was black, dead. I had charged it just hours ago. There was no reason it should have been dead. I lit a candle, then another. Eventually I had 5 scattered through the room, their small flames casting flickering shadows across the walls. It felt like being inside a heartbeat. The apartment was too quiet. I couldn't hear cars outside, not even wind. I told myself it was a citywide blackout, that it was normal, that it was just bad timing. But that didn't explain the phone. I wrapped the blanket tighter around me and sat with my back to the wall, watching the room, watching the shadows move, stretch, dance. One shadow near the far corner lingered longer than it should have. I stared at it, trying not to blink. It wasn't shaped like anything in the room. It was too tall, too narrow. It didn't move with the candlelight. Then it was gone. I got to my feet and stepped closer to the wall, trying to convince myself I had imagined it. My breathing felt loud, too loud. That's when I noticed something else. The air felt heavier, like it was thicker somehow, as if I had stepped underwater. And then I heard it breathing. Not mine. It came from just behind me. A slow, raspy inhale, followed by a shaky exhale, right at my neck. I turned around so fast I stumbled into the wall, knocking over one of the candles. It went out with a soft hiss. No one was there. But I felt it. That weight, that attention. Like something had just leaned in close enough to touch me. I ran to the door and grabbed the knob, still locked. Deadbolt still in place. I turned around, and that's when I saw it. Reflected in the black screen of the television, sitting across the room. A figure. He stood perfectly still behind me. That same cracked red heart-shaped mask. That same crooked posture, like his joints bent the wrong way. No motion, no sound. Just presence. But when I spun to face him, the room was empty. Except for one thing. A red envelope. Lying in the center of the floor where he had just stood. I didn't want to touch it, but my body didn't ask permission. My hand reached for it, fingers trembling. It was warm, not just from the room, but as if it had just been held. There was something different about this envelope. It felt alive. The paper was damp, soft, almost pulsing beneath my fingertips. I opened it. Inside wasn't a card, just a scrap of fabric, pink, satin. I recognized it instantly. It was the ribbon from the nightgown I'd worn to bed the night before. The one I had stuffed into my laundry hamper that morning. I hadn't gone near that hamper all day. And written across the ribbon, smeared in something dark, were the words, "You are almost ready." I didn't know what that meant. I only knew that whatever was coming next, whatever I was being prepared for, it wasn't going to be human. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I stood in the corner of my apartment with my back to the wall, watching the candlelight slowly die out one flicker at a time. The power never came back on, neither did my phone. Everything was silent, dead, and I knew with a kind of cold certainty that didn't need proof that this wasn't a blackout. This wasn't a storm or a glitch. This was him, whatever he was. And he was close now, closer than ever. At some point, maybe around dawn, I started hearing whispers. Not words, just the sound of breath brushing past my ear when no one was there. Sometimes they came from behind, sometimes from inside the walls. It felt like the apartment was shrinking, closing in on itself, becoming less of a place and more of a trap. That ribbon, the one from my nightgown, I had dropped it on the floor the night before. When I looked for it now, it was gone, like it had never been there, like it had been absorbed, consumed. I tried opening the front door. The knob turned, the lock clicked open, but the door wouldn't budge. I pulled, shoved, even kicked it. Nothing. It felt solid as stone. The windows were the same. They wouldn't open, wouldn't break. The glass didn't even shatter when I threw a chair at it. The world outside was still there, but it felt like a memory. I was no longer inside my home. I was inside his. The apartment grew darker as the hours dragged by. Shadows lingered where they shouldn't. Corners of the room bent in strange ways. Time slowed. The clocks all stopped. And then, just as I thought I might scream or lose my mind, I heard a sound. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Coming from the hallway just outside my door, they stopped. Then came a soft knock, not loud, just polite. 3 gentle taps. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The knock came again, louder, more forceful. Then a pause. Then the door slowly began to open on its own. The same door that hadn't moved, no matter how hard I had pushed, creaked open just a few inches before stopping. I waited, heart slamming against my ribs. Silence. Then a red envelope slid through the crack in the door. It landed at my feet like a final verdict. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to know what it said. But I also couldn't look away. I bent down slowly, like something might grab me if I moved too fast, and picked it up. This time, the envelope was ice cold. It burned in a different way. Inside, the note was no longer handwritten, it was printed. Clean, mechanical. Tonight is the night. Step outside. Be mine forever. That word again, forever. It was never about love. It was about ownership, possession. I wasn't being courted. I was being claimed. I should have refused. Should have stayed locked in, prayed, screamed, anything but what I did. I walked to the door. I opened it all the way. Outside was wrong. Not the hallway, not my building. It was a narrow path of red rose petals leading into a vast black forest. Trees bent at strange angles. The sky was deep purple, lit by no sun or moon. Only a dim, pulsing red glow that seemed to come from the earth itself. The air buzzed with a faint humming, like distant violin strings being dragged slowly, painfully. I don't remember stepping through the door, but I must have. Because now, I'm here. I've been walking this forest for what feels like hours, days, maybe longer. Time doesn't work the same here. The path never ends. The petals stay bright and fresh no matter how far I walk. Sometimes I hear him behind me, sometimes beside me, sometimes above me, like he's crawling along the treetops, watching, waiting. And then there are the others. I've seen them, silhouettes in the distance, figures with cracked red masks just like his, staring from behind trees. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, like brides and grooms frozen in time, trapped in this place. All former Valentines, all his. I don't know if I'll ever get out. Maybe I'm already gone. Maybe I was gone the moment I opened the first envelope. All I know is today is Valentine's Day. Again. And the envelope is waiting on the path in front of me, with my name on it again.